Hi, and welcome to the Sales Growth Showcase, where we share insights from today's top sales leaders so that you can make more money and be better connected to those you serve. Today, I am joined by Paul Butterfield. Paul, thank you so much for being here. Why don't you share everybody a little bit more about who you are and how you impact others?
Right. Thanks, Mark, and I appreciate the invitation. So let's have some fun with this. My role currently in Structure is the VP of Revenue Enablement. And so that, of course, includes the enablement of sales teams, but also SDR teams, customer success teams, marketing, et cetera. Most of my career until the last 5 or 6 years, I was either carrying a bag, carrying a quota, or leading sales teams, both in the channel and out of the channel and direct. So I try to bring a mix in my current role. I don't really know how to think about sales enablement in other terms other than quota and attainment and growth. I just carry a bag long enough, right? You just get wired to look at it that way. So it'll be fun to talk about some of these things that you want to today.
Yeah, we all love making quota and exceeding quota. So that's an important perspective to bring. And I'm looking forward to the conversation. So let's dig right into it. Okay. And with sales teams that you're working with today, all of the changes going on, what are some of the key things that you're thinking about or implementing in order to continue to grow your sales today?
That's a great question. So let me back up into last year because it was a very interesting year for us. For those that don't know in Structure, they may know our flagship product, Canvas, because it is the leading platform in use by universities and K-12 districts, et cetera, around the country. And so last year presented a very unique set of challenges because schools that normally thought they would need an online platform found overnight that they did. And so the analysis that we had done going in on where the gaps were in sales skills and how we wanted to work as a leadership team to bring it all back kind of blew up because everybody was pretty successful last year. And so coming into this year, we still have successful sellers, but we're just now being able to come back to looking at it from a more traditional standpoint. So some of the things that we've been focusing on over the last year and in the time since I've been here, we've been putting together the sales enablement strategy are how to have different level customer conversations. You're not going to talk about this, I think, in a little bit more detail. We have a situation here where many of our we sell to educators or administrators, faculty, and the leadership at universities, and many of our salespeople came from those backgrounds. A lot of them were former customers that just were such, fanatics about the product. They wanted to be part of the team. But even with that experience, how do we understand our customers better? How do we have a unified customer experience, not just across higher ed and K-12, but also across international regions? There's always allowances that need to be made, but the customer journey rather should feel the same and be measurable and something we can always be continuously improving across the globe. And that's probably, if I look at a very high level, that's the biggest focus we've had is putting that common sales language and customer experience in place.
And without question, with last year being so unique, a lot of people just coming to the platform very, very quickly, and your organization be able to rise to that challenge. You, as you're sharing, you have to build on that success and really put these. You have to look at it from a different lens. How can you continue to make sure that you're putting in the right enablement processes to continue with the success? So exactly. As you're looking at being able to have these conversations with your customers, potential customers, to continue to grow your sales, you touched upon it. Why don't we expand a bit upon the key challenge that you're facing in order to be able to continue to build on the success that you've already had?
Well, one of the challenges is, and this is, I'm sure a lot of organizations are experiencing this, is when they're I mean, we couldn't even get together for sales kickoff at the beginning of the year, right? All of the normal cross pollination and socializing and the very similar benefits that come from in-person events like a sales kickoff or like any sort of development activities as a team all had to be replicated online, and we're in a mixed environment now. We have some of each, but all of that had to happen. And then when I look at the customer side, our business was very heavily based on in-person, on-site visits with schools on university campuses, etc. And some of that is coming back, but as anyone that watches the news knows, even our educational institutions across the country are having to deal with the remaining COVID variants and that sort of thing in different ways. And so it's created for us a challenge where we first went from mostly in person, on the road, able to be there in front of the customer in a room, talking and sharing, to having to go all virtual, but now having to be good at both and being able to move easily from one world to the other. And there are some things that transcend either virtual or in-person selling that we are succeeding in getting in place that will help bridge those two worlds and help our sellers be more successful regardless of how they have to do it. Hopefully we never go back to full lockdown situation, but at this point I think we're all prepared for any eventualities. So
yeah, no doubt your leadership is, as you were responding, I almost see the interesting irony in that your organization really benefited from this quick move to virtual and moving the classroom or the education experience online. And yet at the same time, as an organization, you're dealing with the very real fallout associated with pure online. And so I think that there's an interesting way to, as you solve the challenges within your own organization, to make sure that you're building that connection, getting the best of in-person experiences and trying to bring them virtual as well, then your customers are going to benefit from that experience as well, because it is so important that we still be building that connection to our instructors, to our classmates, and still be learning from each other, regardless of whether we get to be in the room with them or we're a virtual platform as well.
And it extends to cross-selling opportunities when the teams aren't naturally coming together for whatever activities. It's harder to keep those silos open and non-existent, and that's one of the other big things we're working on, is how to go into discovery conversations just more curious, going in and being able to have a broader conversation, not immediately assume that they want LMS, which, to be fair, many opportunities, most of them will include LMS, but there's a whole platform, learning platform, that's available, and we miss opportunities, and I don't think we do our customers justice when we make that assumption and just immediately, and they agree, we just start going down the road with that one or two main products. So we're getting better as an organization, been working hard, all of us, on just being more curious and more open in our discovery.
Yeah, curiosity is so important in the sales world. Having a genuine curiosity and a desire to learn about the specific challenges of the customer. So we've talked about some of the challenges, and so now let's look at the other side of it. With all of this change, I mean, you had a tremendous, unexpected opportunity last year. What is the biggest area of opportunity that you see going on in the market today with some of this return to in-person, yet still virtual, all this change going on? Where do you see biggest areas of opportunity?
Thanks, because that's an area that I'm really passionate about. I've been in the SaaS world now at several companies for over a decade. And prior to that, even in software licensing, which is where I spent a lot of time, sales, we couldn't really demo the licensed software. But you think about SaaS and think about the interactions that you may have had with SDRs, or salespeople from other companies, other vendors that you work with, and we still rush to the demo way too much. One of my, if it's okay, one of my favorite authors is John Kerr, and one of his books that he has, and he really isn't. He's an SE and he wrote for SEs, but there's a chapter in one of his books called "Dash to the Demo," and I just think that's the perfect name for it. Is as sales organizations, just in general, we're too anxious to show them our software and hoping something shiny grabs their attention to start creating a case for change. When in fact, we miss the opportunity to understand. I'm also a big fan of the book Challenger Sale. I don't think it's so much methodology, but they have some great ideas in there. And one of the ones that they talk about is at some point in discovery, your prospect doesn't say, I really don't know, I never thought about it. You missed the opportunity to have a better and deeper conversation. You more likely just check the same boxes that all your competition is going to check. And so to me, that is one of the biggest areas that as a profession, there's still a lot of room for improving, because that's going to drive a better customer experience. Nobody wants to sit through a demo that's maybe 50% relevant to them. The flip side to that is, as SaaS sales organizations, we've set that expectation. Customers expect a demo on the first thing. And so one of the challenges we have to do is then start to help them see why we actually want to spend time talking to them first, without them feeling like, right, well, why do you want to show me your product? But that's our fault. I think that's our fault as SaaS sales organizations. We set that up. We need to break it now. So
Yeah, especially nowadays, everybody's attention span and their time is so valuable. And so even the customer wants to, let's get to it. Let's get to this as quickly as possible. But just as you're saying, if we don't take that time to slow the conversation down, make sure that we understand their specific environment, their specific needs, and then
what's their outcome? What are they trying to do?
Yeah. And then being able to tie your solution or your demo back to that, more likely than not, you're gonna miss the mark, and it just won't resonate with them the way that you want. I have a fun experience. My first year in sales, I actually had a chief information officer get up and walk out of the room, declaring that this is a waste of my time. About 10 minutes in, and it was because I had dashed to the demo. I had come in, Mr. Salesperson, thinking that, okay, here I am. I'm already with my sales pitch. I'm so practiced. I'm ready to go. And yet I hadn't taken that time to connect it to them, and just so it wasn't relevant to him. So.
And to be fair, I think sometimes it's a matter of forcing ourselves to have some artificial patience. What I mean by that is, if you really have learned your market and you've been in that market for a while and you've really worked to craft your sales ability, odds are that there are a limited number of problems that your customers and prospects are solving with your, whatever your solution is. And you may be able to talk to them for 10 minutes and be absolutely spot on what they need. But that's not the point. Because if we don't slow it down and bring them along, they don't have the same level of buy-in. So I think there's a couple of benefits to doing it that way.
Yeah, that's great. Well, Paul, really appreciate everything that you've shared, and helping us benefit from your experiences. And congratulations on all your success over the past year or so, and everything that you're putting in place to continue that success. No doubt there are people in your career that have been especially impactful for you, help you get where you are today, or continue to challenge yourself in new and interesting ways. Are there a few folks that you'd like to mention that perhaps I can connect with and invite on the show?
Sure. I mean, when I think about people that have mentored me and helped me, be where I am now, two that come to mind immediately is actually my current boss, Frank Malett, because this is the third company that I've worked for him. And that should tell you a lot about his leadership style, right? There's a reason that 3 times makes sense. But also an EVP that I worked for at one point, excuse me. I've been having a cold. work not for, but with, and that was at Vonage. His name's Reggie Scales. Reggie is, again, just one of those leaders that's dynamic, that they get it. He was very big, much a supporter of the enablement and the things we were doing there at Vonage. A couple of other folks just right now I work with one named Chris Benwell. Again, very seasoned SaaS leader, somebody I love partnering with. And then a few other ones, just Joey Goodson. I made a couple of notes. Joey Goodson and also James Roth, both Vonage sales leaders. So,
well, thank you so much. No doubt if they have been impactful and continue to be impactful, sounds like all of them continue to be impactful for you, then I'll look forward to connecting with them. So I appreciate you mentioning their name.
All right.
Thank you, Paul, for taking the time. These conversations go very quick. I really appreciate you jumping on and sharing with us so that we can learn from your experiences and insights. So thanks for taking the time to do this.
Oh, thanks for the invite, Mark. It was fun.
You bet. And listeners, if you're not already subscribed to the show, please take a moment to subscribe and share with us what was your key insight that Paul shared today that's going to stick with you. Make sure that you put that down in the comments below. And until next time, I hope you reach invincible success.